Hey, this is Tyson, and this is the last video on the JavaScript basics, and here we're looking at if and else and other ways that we can branch code and basically just how we can make conditionals and use that in JavaScript. So here we have a basic if-else statement. We're basically saying, in this function that we call, we're saying if the artist compares to Prince, then return yes, and else if it includes, then we'll return sort of, and then otherwise we'll return no. So here we're passing in our argument, and it compares it to all these different conditions, and it returns sort of because it sort of is. And so basically in any if statement, you have something, and this either evaluates to being truthy or it evaluates to being falsy. So in this case, artist comparing to Prince, that compares to being a falsy condition, and so it goes on to the next thing, and it calls else if, and that will evaluate to being truthy. But of course, if we just totally take a bunch of this off, it'll just say no, because it evaluates all the way down to the final thing, which is the else. And so that's kind of how you can branch code in JavaScript using if, else if, and else. A much easier to an easier to write version of this would just be using the ternary operator. And of course, ternary comes from the Latin ternarius, which means three. So basically, it means that you have three different things that compose it. So you have the condition, and then whether the condition is satisfied or not satisfied. And this is basically the same as saying if the condition and then else the other thing. But you can just do the question mark, and then after that use the semicolon, and you will basically have the same results. So I do a lot of this ternary stuff because it's just a lot of times it's easier to just have a one-liner than to have a bunch of ifs and elses all over your code. Another way you can branch your code is using a switch statement. So this basically you give it an argument, and then cases based on what the argument is. So one case is that if the argument is Prince, then it will return yes, and then we can default it to no. And you can of course have as many cases as you want, and it'll work accordingly. So finally, in our basic JavaScript stuff, we have tries and catches. So this is a way you can kind of catch errors. I'll pop over here. And so basically, we're throwing a new error. It says, oh no, so then we're just logging out the e.message. So basically, anytime you create a error, whether on purpose or not on purpose, so if we just did this, that would be an error because that's not a real thing. So it's going to say that that's not defined, which is true, and so that's been caught, and we're logging it out. So you can handle errors that way. And of course, if there's no error there, then of course it's not going to throw. It's just going to do what's inside of the try block. So that's basically how you can catch errors if you need to, but of course you don't want to just wrap all your code in try catches, but every once in a while these are useful for various things. So that's all the basics of the very beginning basics that I wanted to cover. We'll be getting into some more medium level JavaScript stuff coming soon, but I just wanted to cover all these things and see where we're at. So hope you enjoyed it, and continue watching.